Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Lindsay and today we're going to be going over how to find a comfortable seat for our meditation practice. So as a yoga practitioner or as a meditation practitioner, you might be struggling to find a comfortable seat for your practice, and I know that a lot of my students also struggle with this too. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down a few different options for ways to find a comfortable seated position for your meditation practice so that your mind is able to focus on your practice without your body getting in the way. So for today's practice, I'm going to just break down a little bit first of why it's important and how props can help support us, right? So the average person, including myself, when we come to sit, our knees are a little bit higher than our hips, right? And this kind of creates a rounding in the low back, right? So you'll see a lot of students when they come to sit, they kind of round into their back like this, right? So what we want is a nice tall spine where the heart is over the hips and the head is over the heart, right? So a nice engaged tall spine. And if you're able to hold this comfortably, maybe you don't need any props, right? But the average person, it's not so easy. So the first thing that we can start to use here is a yoga blanket, right? So it can be a yoga blanket, it could be any blanket you just have in your house. And by propping up the hips a little bit higher, we start to feel a little bit more ease in the back, right? This creates a little tilt of my pelvis forward so that I'm able to sit up nice and tall without much effort, right? And you can fold this blanket any amount to get a different height depending on what your body needs. So even if I wanted to fold this up a little bit higher and perch myself up here, right now I'm able to sit much more comfortably up tall without needing really to engage my abdomen too much to sit tall like this. So a blanket is a great option for if you don't have too many fancy props. You can also use a towel if you have one in your house. And this is a great way to start to find a more comfortable seat for your meditation practice, or really any time throughout a yoga practice when you're asked to sit on the floor. Using a blanket for a little support will really help you find that nice engagement through the core. Option number 2 is using a yoga bolster or a pillow, maybe a firm pillow that you have in your house. And similar to the blanket, this is really going to do the exact same thing. You perch yourself up. And the idea here is to kind of sit towards the edge of the bolster, right? So that your pelvis can start to roll forward a bit. And with that little roll forward, you're able to find a bit of a taller spine here. So this is a great option for a lot of people. Bolster is nice and wide and supportive and really feels like you have a nice cushion underneath you. If you have any discomfort here under the ankles or the knees, using that blanket underneath, right, just up against the bolster will help you get a little bit more cushion so that you don't have any discomfort with your ankles or knees touching the floor. So option number 2 and 3, I guess, right here with a few more props. Okay, our next option here involves a few yoga blocks. So option number 1, using one yoga block. If you have quite open ankles and your feet feel pretty comfortable, you can use one yoga block and slide it between your ankles on its wider height setting, that flat height setting, and come to sit down on one block like so, right? And this would require a little bit of comfort in the ankles. This can be quite uncomfortable as a sustainable seat if you're doing a longer meditation practice, but if you're doing just a 5-minute meditation and this feels pretty comfortable for you, this is a great option. Another option here is to stack another block on top, come to sit on it again, and sit like this. This is much more comfortable because there's less flexion in the knees, much more space here for the body to relax. So those are options 4 and 5 now. And then moving forward here, you can also use blocks in the same way that we just used that bolster. So if you place 2 blocks together side by side and come to sit in front on top of your blocks, this is a really nice stable seat for your meditation practice, right? So there's not as much give here with the versus the bolster. So with the blocks, that's going to feel much more stable and supportive for your practice. It also might feel uncomfortable, especially if you have wooden or cork blocks or another material that isn't as giving as these foam blocks. So again, this is where the blanket can come in handy. if you open up the blanket into this rectangular shape, slide it over the blocks, and then come to sitting on top of that, the blanket just helps to give a little bit of that cushion. And again, you'll have the support of the blanket for underneath your ankles and your knees to help find a more comfortable seat here. This is option 6 and 7. All right, so here's a few more options for you as you're coming to sit in your meditation practice. You can move this stuff out of the way for now, and then come to a chair. Right, so not all yoga studios will have a chair that you can use, but if you're practicing in your home, sitting on a chair is a great option, right? So again, sitting in the chair, here's a yoga chair without a back, but you can use any chair in your house. Again, the common misalignment here when people are sitting in the chair commonly is that they're leaning back, right? The chair might not have as strong of a support here for the back, so they might be leaning back in space. And again, our goal in meditation is to align our heart and our hips over one another and have our head floating right on top, right? So oftentimes the suggestion for if somebody's coming to their meditation practice in a chair is to wiggle themselves up to the edge of the chair, plant their feet firmly onto the floor, and sit up nice and tall like so, right? And here, again, you might have that same issue that you did on the floor where you're rounding into your back. So really the idea is to stay engaged throughout the spine. If this doesn't feel so comfortable, you can slide towards the back of your chair for a little more support, but just make sure you're sitting up nice and tall and not rounding again into the back, right? The goal is always to find that comfortable, tall spine. I think that is it, my 8 tips here for different ways to sit in your meditation practice. So thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this and found this helpful. If you ever need any suggestions on how to sit comfortably, be sure to join me on Yoga and New Teacher Training's website in our 200 and 300 hour training. Take care.